Welcome back to You, Me, and NFP Unplugged.
This is going to be raw and real, friends.
We are your hosts, Sarah and
Val, two imperfect people sharing about a perfect God.
What a gift it is that he qualifies. I messed it up. That he doesn't call the qualified, but he qualifies the called.
You got it. There you go. We are so grateful that you are all here today to journey with us, friends. So raise your glasses and let's go on this journey together. Cheers.
I'm going to preface this episode by letting y'all know that I have something stuck in my eye. I was driving down the road today thinking about doing this episode, and out comes something in the car from the vent, and it's been stuck in my eye ever since. So if you see me like that, just consider the fact that we are so glad you're here. Hope it's not too.
We have a special guest with us today. Lauren is here, and she is going to journey with us by sharing her story with you guys, what she wished she would have known before her husband had a vasectomy. So we are so glad she's going to share her story with us about God's mercy in her life. But before we dive into the deep stuff, we are going to pull a little question out of a hat and have a little icebreaker. So, I love that camouflage.
The special evening is the El Special Dollar Store G.I. Joe hat.
Which makes me think of, like, side note here, I just have to share this. We went to Florida together, Sarah and I, and we got gifts for our children to bring back. And she got this G.I. Joe like combat thingy. And it was like going boo, 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 boo. And it like sounded like guns going off. And she was going to bring it on the airplane with her back. So we're like trying to disarm the thing and get the batteries to turn off. Anyhow, that G.I. Joe hat just brought back memories. And thank you to our men in service. We appreciate you all.
Absolutely. Good call, Val. Thank you so much for fighting for our freedom. Okay. Icebreaker question, as if we need that, but anyway. All right, Lauren, what advice do you have on keeping your house clean, in particular, your bedroom?
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow. Let's see. Well, my best advice is to just not own anything. Just don't have anything, guys. And you don't have to clean it up. You don't have to pick it up. You don't have to do anything. Just be a minimalist. That's my best advice. Yeah, we get rid of all of our kids' stuff all the time and all of our stuff all the time. And we own very little furniture. And that does the trick.
That is a great mom tip. Like, because
it really is. Yeah.
I have to throw stuff out though when they're not looking, because if they put in the trash, they're like digging through that trash, pulling it back out.
Yeah, now that they've gotten a little older, they like want to be involved, which is totally fine and good. And my husband and I, we always I don't ever get rid of any of his stuff or what have you. But yeah, that is kind of, we've also found that if we don't keep the house super clean or keep things off the counters, then our kids will get into it or eat everything. And even if we keep things under lock and key, they're still getting into it. They ate an entire jar of pickles this last week, even though the refrigerator was locked. I mean, crazy things happen. My 5 and 6-year-old are ninjas.
You legitimately lock your refrigerator from the kids?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
That's one way that they don't eat you out of the house. I seriously, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and all the cupboards. So
wow.
And the doors. So
I'm just buying groceries all the time because they eat me out of the house.
Yeah, I mean, kids really do eat you out of house and home. Our children are actually doing that to us. So
Well, speaking of that, let's go in and let everybody know a little window into your life. Now we know about your locked refrigerators and that you have a husband and kids, but can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into your story?
Yeah. I'm married. My husband and I have been married for almost 8 years. My husband is not Catholic and I am Catholic. He is super supportive though of the church and has always gone to mass with me and goes to adoration and has always really made a big, and was always supportive of us practicing NFP. So that is a really important thing that I just want to preface. And then we have 3 kids who are 6, 5, and 2. Our lives are probably just, I guess they seem kind of normal, but then they also seem kind of crazy all the time as well. And I think that that's just sort of the way life is when you have littles. And we both work full time and just, trying to survive the pandemic right now. So I don't know. I think that's the little window into our life. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to preface your continued story sharing with saying that, because people are probably wondering, like, where did you come from? Are you just somebody that we talk to on the street? You know,
Right.
they're finding these people. They're like interviewing people to share their story. So I'll just share that Lauren and I have a relationship because I taught her about NFP. And so I think that naturally introduces just a very come as you are and kind of give me all the details. Like, there is no TMI today. So just practicing your beautiful story with giving kind of a understanding of where you came from. You're not random. You've been around.
Yeah, and I've known Sarah I met Sarah probably about 6 or 7 years ago, or 7 years ago, right after my about 7 or 8 months after we'd had our first child, and my husband and I had been married. We had done our pre-K9 and had done our NFP classes before, and we really wanted to practice NFP in a way that we just wanted a different method. And so we found out about Marquette and I found Sarah and developed this really great relationship with her. And so became friends with her. And over the years, as we had kids and I would call her and be like, what did I do wrong? What did I miscount? So just being real.
Yeah.
Because that's, sometimes that happens too.
Yeah.
And so Sarah just kind of walked through, helped me learn NFP. And it really was an encouragement to me as well when we had when we got pregnant, when we weren't expecting it. And also when we did get pregnant and we were expecting it. So she got to kind of share in that with me. And so that's that relationship that I've had with Sarah over the years and how I've gotten to know her. And that's kind of how I've come to this place where I have gotten to know Val a little bit as well. So that's a little bit of that background story, I guess, for where I'm at with you guys right now. So hopefully that bridges the gap.
So I think it's
a good,
as you mentioned, like the journey. So we are so grateful that you guys are here with us today to journey with us and to hear Lauren's beautiful story about how God has shown his mercy in your life, right? So if you want to just dive into how you've witnessed the Lord's mercy.
Yeah. So, I wish that I could be telling you guys a little bit different story, to be perfectly honest. I was raised Catholic, I grew up Catholic, and I had what I would call like a reversion or a reawakening to my faith when I was in my mid-20s, and just came back to the church in a very vibrant and renewed manner. And when I got married to my husband, he was just very, very supportive of the church. And even though he wasn't Catholic, I always tell people he's one of the best Catholics I've ever known, because he loves going to mass, and he loves adoration, and he knows what adoration is. And he knows what, he knows what his scapular is. And he, there's just all these things about the faith that he understands. And I'm so grateful for that. And, and he's always been extremely supportive of NFP, of natural family planning. And so that was incredibly important to me. And so, even as we journeyed, through the first couple of years of our marriage, we got married and we wanted to get pregnant right away. So we had our first child, and that was really good. And then we got pregnant pretty soon after our first kiddo was born. 9 months after our first kiddo was born, we found out we were expecting again. And that was a bit of a surprise, but it was still good. And then we had a little bit of time, in between, our second and our third, but we just started to realize it was like, man, having kids was just a lot harder than what I thought it was going to be. And I guess, when you think about being Catholic and holiness, I guess in my mind, I think I had kind of equated being a holy woman with having a really big family. And that wasn't, that was incorrect, right? I mean, you don't have to have a huge family to be a holy person, but I started to feel like my family size was tied to that, and that I needed to have a big family. And instead of prayerfully considering it, it started to be something that it felt like we just, it stopped being something that we prayed about, and something that that my husband and I had a lot of anxiety about, and that we just saw all the negatives and the things that really stressed us out. And so it became something, even when we talked about it with our families, that it became a topic that was more about fear. So having kids became more about fear and about stress and overwhelm. And so, so that was, our first two kids, and they were really close in age. And anybody who has kids that are, 12 or 13 or 18 months apart, they call them the Irish twins. That's just hard, I mean, it's just a difficult season. And we had moves in there and new jobs. And I just remember my family being like, are you done? You're going to be done, right? Because I had some health issues as well. I have lupus, and my pregnancies were really high risk, and I had to do shots every day, and I was at the doctor's all the time. And so having kids wasn't just about having being pregnant and having a baby, but it was a lot of fear, not just for our family, not just for my husband and I, but for my family and my extended family. And so, it was after our second kiddo, and we moved back. We had another cross-country move and came back to where we're settled at now, that we kind of started, I guess, kind of the seeds of doubt about NFP sort of started to, get their way into our lives a little bit more, more deeply. And then we found out we were expecting our third child. And I guess I would say that it wasn't that expecting a third child is what really threw us for a loop. It was the next couple of months when we found out that he had a pretty significant birth defect. And then there was just a lot of fear that went with that. And, we didn't know if he was going to live or not. And then we didn't know what was going to happen with me. And we didn't know if we would, we didn't know if this would happen again. And all the while we had our family or different members of our family who really felt strongly that we shouldn't have kids anymore, that after this we should be done. And so it started to become this, it stopped being a question of if. It was, okay, well, the most logical thing is for your husband to have a vasectomy, because it's not logical, it's not rational for you to have any more kids, and for your religion, for God, for you to even consider, for Jesus or for God to have any place in your bedroom, it doesn't matter. Like that shouldn't be happening. It should be what's in the best interest of your health, and and that's the most important thing for your family. And so, just very slowly, the conversation and the way that we started to think about it went very far away from what our wedding vows were, right? Which was that we would always be open to life, and that we would, honor one another. And it went to being a very selfish look, which was, okay, we're really overwhelmed, we're scared, which that's not, I wouldn't say that that was necessarily very selfish, but it was, we don't want to go through this again. This is scary, but there's also a lot of weight on us financially, and there's a lot of weight on this, spiritually and emotionally. And, the church says, that it's okay to weigh, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong, right, with evaluating the number of kids that you have. I mean, if spiritually and emotionally and physically and financially you can't afford, right, to have more children, in any of those categories, the church says that's okay. But our decision for the vasectomy, I feel like, really came from a place of fear. And so we ended up having the vasectomy. It was about actually a month before our third child was born. And I just remember being in the doctor's office and being so shamed. That whole day and even leading up to it, I just really been wrestling with it. And I just felt like it just didn't feel like the right decision. But then it also felt like, gosh, if we keep having kids, like, is it always going to be like this? And is it going to put a strain on our marriage? And, my husband's not Catholic. So is at some point, is he going to resent me if we continue to have kids? And is my is our family going to continue to be upset with us if we keep having, kids? And, now when you look back on it, hindsight's 2020, it feels like, oh my gosh, like I let all these fears make this decision for me. But at the time it felt very real. Like, oh my goodness, if I don't do this, then my whole life is going to come crashing down around me. But when we left the doctor's office, I felt like my whole life crashed down around me. I remember leaving and feeling like that singular decision made me feel like I couldn't be Catholic anymore, because I guess I've just never really adhered to the idea that the cafeteria Catholicism, right? Like that you can pick and choose, the things that you believe or the things that you don't believe. I really had always felt like if you're going to be Catholic, then you believe the tenets of the church and you live that, you what the catechism, the Bible, and if you're not willing to live by that, that's okay. But like you can't profess to be a Catholic anymore. And so I really, really struggled with that. And my heart just ached, for close to 2 years, honestly. After that, I wish I could say that, I went to confession afterwards because I knew that what had happened, what the decision that we made was wrong, right? I felt that tension immediately, literally while we were sitting in the office, I just wanted to run in there and grab my husband and just for us to leave, but I was too embarrassed. I felt so much shame to be there, but also I was too embarrassed to like make the decision to leave because I'd already called to cancel the appointment, and then I called to go back to the appointment. And so, I looked like a complete idiot at the moment anyway. So but yeah, so after leaving and then going to confession, I just really struggled for the next 2 years just to even forgive myself. I didn't feel like I could go to mass. I didn't feel like I could receive the Eucharist. I didn't feel like I could, really even talk to my friends that, I just felt like I was in such a place of limbo because I had my friends who weren't Catholic, who I didn't feel like could really understand where I was coming from because they didn't think it was really a big deal. And then I had my friends who were what I would consider to be really faithful Catholics who I really admired and I loved. And I felt like if they knew what the decision that we had made, that they would just think that I was the worst person in the world, And so it just felt like I was just, alone and lost. And I don't know, my husband and I now, it's been, like I said, probably about just a little over close to 2.5 years now since we made that decision. And I finally feel like we've gotten to a place where I've been able to forgive myself, where he and I can talk about it and we can look back and prayerfully say like, yeah, that was a really bad decision. And we really wish we wouldn't have done that. And instead of making that decision, we wish that we would have just I wish that I would have just reached out to Sarah and said, hey, what's the most conservative method of Marquette that we could have practiced? You know, or could we have paired Marquette with another, you know, with symptothermo or with something else to just try and be more, conservative? Because at the end of the day, my husband and I still stand by the fact that we don't feel like we were called. We don't feel like we were called to have more children at this stage. Like we have discerned that our family size right now is the size that we were meant to have. But the way that we have gone about that, it's not alignment with the church. And that's where I feel the biggest tension, is that one day I'm going to have to explain this to our kids, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good, and even beyond just not feeling good, it just feels, like I said, out of alignment. I think for me, at least, it's really important to live authentically, right? I mean, so often I think that we see people, I think a lot of our struggles in the world, whether it's, whether we see our kids or our parents or whoever it is, we struggle with wanting to be one thing and then acting another way, right? And I had always really been so proud of the fact that I could say that I was Catholic, or that I was honest, or that I was truthful, or that I was patient. If I said I was those things, and I was going to be that thing. And so, so it's just been a reckoning and coming to terms with, I can still be Catholic, and I can forgive myself, and I need to forgive myself. And that at the end of the day, these last 2 years of beating myself up over this bad decision, that God takes brokenness and does make beautiful things out of it. And that he is merciful, and that is what confession is for. And that is what, ultimately, confession and absolution is what allows us to come back to the Eucharist, and what allows us to come back to Jesus. And, that's the Eucharist is still here with us. That's why He's here with us, present, to minister to our hearts, so that our head and our hearts can be in alignment with one another. And even when we don't feel in alignment, He allows us to be in alignment with Him. And I just think that's, even when we don't feel it, Jesus is still here with us, and He in the Eucharist, and He wants us with Him. Yes. And I think that my husband and I have talked a lot about that, and just that division that, the devil wants us to feel, right? The devil doesn't want us at church, that's why these last 2 years was so difficult. Because I made it so easy for him because I didn't go. So
I feel like, as you're saying that, like before we got on this episode, I don't know why, but like the Lord, and He had me pull this out before with Ellen, but the verse in Psalm 34:18. Hold on.
It's a vow to be the good Catholic and pull in the scripture.
Sorry. Psalm 34:19. It just says, like, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And so, like, even when we are broken because of our own brokenness and our own sin, like we're broken off to God, like He just wants us to receive His mercy. And I think that's one of the biggest lies of the devil. Like you said, like you felt so guilty and you couldn't forgive yourself, right? And obviously, like, those feelings are real, but they're not necessarily right, because the Lord wants us to seek His mercy. And I think the devil just wants to say, nope, just walk away from the church. You are unworthy. But the Lord's like, no, like, I know this world was going to fall. I know we are humans. I want you to be back with me again, like, and unified with me. And so, like, that sacrament of confession, I think, is so important. And like you said, forgiving yourself. I know not the same situations, but there's so many times where I've learned in this past year, actually, where I have to forgive myself, because else I walk around and I feel like I'm still stuck in the muck, like you can't let it go. And the devil loves that, because he wants us to stay in that shame and down on ourselves. Could you give advice for anybody else that's been in the same situation as you and having a really hard time forgiving themselves. How about like how you went about seeking confession and forgiveness from God and accepting that forgiveness, but then also being able to forgive yourself? Could you share that with anybody else out there going through the same thing, struggling with that?
Yeah. I mean, to be really honest, I mean, I went to confession, like, I don't know. I mean, Sarah, I think I talked to you the same day or like within 24. I called Sarah like, within like 24 hours, I think. And so I went to confession within 24 hours. I mean, like immediately.
You knew beforehand that you didn't want to go through with this. And so you knew right away.
I mean, I mean, I knew that it wasn't right. And then there was like there was fear laden on top of all that. So, I mean, so definitely just getting to confession, I think is really important. But for me, then it was like for a good year and a half, I still felt unworthy of mass. I felt unworthy of being able to attend mass. I felt unworthy of being able to go to adoration. I like all of those things. I just kind of, and I also, again, I didn't feel like I could be Catholic. So the thing that kind of brought me to a place where I felt like I could finally start to, I guess, sort of dig myself out of that was, I've always loved adoration. I mean, like bar none, everything, like adoration has always been a place that I have sought sanctuary in. And so,
it makes sense. Jesus is present. Right. So
absolutely his true presence. And so I started making a holy hour every week. And this was, it was probably about like 6 or 8 months ago, I guess. And adoration, it just kind of just broke through. I mean, I would say that that's probably the biggest thing is just that very, that very focused time where it's just you and even if you're not Catholic, right? Or if you're struggling with this, just some time where you just are prayerfully seeking out the Lord, where you're just sitting quietly away from everything else and you're just making some sacred time for you to be alone and to seek God. I think that we're just also busy and it's hard to get an hour, but even 5 minutes, but getting that 1 hour of adoration a week just started to like just chip away at things. And even sometimes like I would just sit in there and I'm sure there was at least a couple of times where I just like dozed off because I just was tired, but it was just like the effort. It was making the effort to go and to sit and to be with him and to cry and to just, to let it all down, to kind of let the barriers down. That's what really helped. And then I finally started to go to confession more frequently. And then I finally received the Eucharist again. I finally was like, I should be receiving the Eucharist, I mean, like there's no reason why I should not be receiving the Eucharist. Like, I know better than this. And then I started wearing my scapular again and I started praying, more frequently. I started praying the rosary. I mean, and so then it's like all of the things that I used to do, I started doing again. And it's like, I started to feel like who I was before I made this decision. And and so I guess I feel a little bit kind of like my old self, even though I know, that there's, unfortunately this decision that we can't undo at the moment. Right. I mean, financially we just can't afford to right now. But I do feel like, adoration, I guess, would be the thing that I would say. And whether you're Catholic or not Catholic, even if you're not Catholic, you can still go to adoration. I take people who are not Catholic to adoration all the time.
Absolutely.
And they like it.
Like open up your Bible, like you said, and spend 20 minutes in scripture or just closing your eyes and the Lord is in your heart and meditate on yourself, picture your head on the Lord's chest, and realize that we are first and foremost daughters and sons of Christ. And we're not just a sum of our successes or failures. I think like verbalizing that too, just from my own experience with different things in my life, verbalizing like, okay, like Valerie, I don't condone what you did. That what I did was wrong, but I forgive myself. Like literally letting myself speak that and hear it. Like I forgive myself for what I did, and then walking away from it. That has helped me with little things a lot, so I don't let it ruin my day. Because before I used to do that, it would ruin my day because I just feel so shameful about myself. So at first asking God for forgiveness, like you said, going to confession and receiving his mercy and his grace in that confession. And if you're not Catholic, asking God for that forgiveness one-on-one. If you are Catholic, the sacrament of confession is needed. And it's a beautiful, beautiful gift of, it just brings everything to light and absolves us from our sin. And then two, just forgiving ourselves and walking away from it. So gosh, thank you for sharing that.
Question. Meanwhile, this whole time I'm like, my phone notified me I had 20% battery.
Oh no.
So my choice is, do I unplug this microphone that took us 45 minutes to get set up, or do I charge my battery? So I'm going to talk really fast. So one of the questions that keeps coming to me is, can you talk a little bit more about the feelings that you had after the vasectomy took place? Because I've heard this from countless people, that there's an immediate change that takes place that you feel when that sterilization has taken place. Is there anything more that I know this is like really opening up the wound, but anything that you could share with those listening that touches on that and how it affects it?
Yeah, so just for, I guess for kind of the audience to know, one of the things that I did ahead of time was to kind of write this out so that Val and Sarah could read it a little bit ahead of time to make sure also that what I was going to say wasn't too crazy. And one of the things that I talked about was that when the vasectomy happened, that ironically enough, it felt like it created this barrier for my husband and I, and that it was immediate. I mean, it, in a way that it's difficult to explain, but it was just, it felt, the intimacy that was there was still there, right? I mean, like, you know, I still desired my husband, he still desired me, you know, that wasn't different. But the way that we gave each other to ourselves changed because the openness to life wasn't there. And so it felt almost like it was less sacred. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, because at least for, right, with Catholics, like when a man and woman, you know, when they make love, like the whole idea is that it's like a recommitment of the covenant of their bonds of marriage, right? And it's like a recommitment to their marriage vows. And our marriage vow was to be open to life. And we'd said this in front of our family, right? We had made this commitment to the Lord, and then we make this decision that was antithetical, right, to what we had said in our vows. And so then every time that we were together in that manner intimately, it felt, you know, like there was just something missing. And like, you know, like and it didn't feel like all of myself was given to him and that all of his self was given to me. And I can't tell you, I mean, yeah, I would never recommend anyone to get it. And I know that someone probably is going to listen to this and say, well, that's pretty easy for you to say because you've had it done and now you don't have to worry about it. And I can totally hear how somebody would feel that way. But my husband and I have both said, like, the way that we have felt and how it affected our marriage afterwards and how hard we had to work to be able to get back to a place where the level of intimacy that we had before the vasectomy, and for the 2 years afterwards and how much it affected us, it just wasn't worth it. I mean, it just wasn't worth it. And there was even a woman actually, the day after the vasectomy happened, I had to go have an ultrasound done. And I remember talking to the tech because I was really struggling and I just needed to talk to somebody. And I was like, what's your thoughts on vasectomy? I was just kind of like, play it off because I don't know. I just needed to talk to somebody. But I didn't want to admit that I'd done it because I was so embarrassed. And she just teared up. And mind you, like, it was a super high risk pregnancy, right? So I saw this tech all the time. We were very good, had become good friends but like, I hadn't always talked to her about like super, like personal stuff. So I brought this up kind of on a limb and she got pretty emotional. And she was like, my husband and I had one and I would not recommend anybody to do something so permanently. And then she shared that her sister-in-law, or maybe her sister, somebody else in her family had it done and had the same feelings of like, they wish they hadn't done it. And then Sarah had recommended a book for me to read that shared story after story after story of couples who had also experienced, some form of sterilization, whether it was a vasectomy or a tubal or what have you, and their feelings. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness. So I'm not alone in the way that I'm feeling. There's a lot of people that are struggling with this, and this feeling of loss, and I guess that's it. To pinpoint it, is that it feels like you lose it. You lose something, I mean, you very obviously lose something, you lose the ability, to create life, but even more so, you lose a level of intimacy with your spouse. I think that, you just can't regain in some respects. So.
Well, and in hearing you say all of this, it really resonates that, from the outside looking in, it could look like the church has all these rules, like no, can't, don't, this.
Right.
But it's not to chain us. It's actually to free us. And that the Lord wants to prevent these real and raw emotional responses to decisions that we can make because he loves us. He's our Father and he wants to protect us. And so thank you for sharing your story, because it's so evident of how much the Lord loves us and guides us through the teachings of the church, and how he only wants real, authentic love for spouses, right? I mean, for everybody, but because we're talking about marriage. But I'm so afraid my phone is gonna die. Like, where's my charger? Is it like die?
Sarah, like what you're saying, like, just made me think like how the Lord wants authentic love for all of us, right? And because the devil like cannot create authentic love, God is the only one that create love, and he tries to just twist it on us. And I heard you say, Lauren, so many times that this decision was almost made out of fear, right? Like the devil makes us think with our heads, like, okay, if I could just be in control, if I can make this decision, we're going to be all set. And so many times, whether it's on sterilization or anything in our lives, I think we can all relate at some level that we make decisions out of our feelings of fear. And those feelings might be right. Like you said, you discerned not to have children at this point, financially, stressors, Irish twins, all that. And where God comes and he says, okay, that's okay. Like, you're not ready. You have good reason to avoid pregnancy, but I have a way for you to do that. And that's looking at your body in a scientific way, in the way I designed it, and abstaining, right? So that every time you do make love, that unitiveness and that open to life is there, but it's okay not to be called to have a child, and it's okay to abstain because you're not using, it's not like a contraception. You're just abstaining from the act of making love. Anyhow, where I'm trying to circle back around at is the devil twists that, right? And he says, nope, like, just take care of that yourself. Like, and you said something that hit me so hard. You said, like you just felt like you were doing what was in the best interest for your future kids, or like not future kids, sorry, your marriage and your health. And the devil obviously twists that, because God knows what's in our best interest. And like you're telling all of us today, and thank you for your vulnerability in sharing that with us. God knows our best interest, but the devil says, nope, listen to me, just like he did with Adam and Eve. And so many times we fall for the fruit because it looks good. He doesn't tempt us with things that don't look good. He doesn't tempt us with a rotten apple. He tells us everything will be better if we do this. And like you witnessed for us, and just sharing the fact that it's not better. The grass isn't greener on the other side. And just thank you for being so vulnerable with us, and just sharing. And I think your story, one, will help people that have gone down the same road be able to repent, be able to forgive themselves, be able to continue their journey in their faith, and not let the devil keep them down, essentially, right? That they can go and be a light to the world. And two, if anybody is thinking about this decision right now, I think it definitely speaks to them to like, wait, put the brakes on, like let's not do this. Let's do this a different way. Let's seek out an NFP instructor. And like you said, let's use that biggest abstinent window, even though it's not fun and it's sacrificial, it will give us that most authentic love in our marriages. So anyhow, sorry, I feel like I rambled a lot there. Raw and real.
No. Come, Holy Spirit. You're such a light.
Come, Holy Spirit.
Our singers.
I don't know. As my daughter says, if a song's stuck in your head, she always tells me, like, it's stuck in my head. Keep it there then, Mom.
Right. Let's keep it that way. Lauren, thank you for being mindful of how the Lord can heal our wounds, and that he can be everything that we cannot be ourselves.
Yes.
So if this story happened to resonate with you, continue to follow along. Val and I will be doing a follow-up episode on this topic. If you want to know more about possible sterilization reversals, which are possible, make sure you follow along, because we will be talking about that as well. And we will also link the information that Lauren mentioned about the book that I had suggested to her in what, show notes?
Yes, down below in the comments. We'll have it down there.
I just show up for the party. Val, take it away.
All right. We just want to, again, Lauren, thank you for being here. It's just been, you're such a light, and your vulnerability, it takes a lot to be vulnerable. And like, God is victorious in your story, because you coming out and sharing this, what other people might be feeling, but like you said, cannot just bring it to the light to anyone. Now they have someone that is in this boat with them, and they're not alone. So just thank you so much for your vulnerability. Like, you are so articulate in what you say. It's just like, man, like, I wish I could speak like you. But God doesn't give everybody that gift, Lauren.
We're going to get ear pods, and Lauren's going to feed us what we say in our next.
Seriously. Like, you're so good. You're such a natural.
Visual prompt.
I love it. Yeah. Just prompt us in what to say. I like your thinking, sis. That's good. We just want to thank all of you for joining us today. It's just we're so grateful that you're on this journey along with us, and that you're here, and we welcome all of you. We ask you to subscribe so you can continue to find these episodes, and we can continue to journey with one another, and share this with a friend, because together we can share NFP. So God bless you all, and we'll see you next time. That's a wrap.